Okay, so before we get into the complete program, there's some fundamental concepts and ideas and the perspectives of customers in today's day and age that I really think is important that you understand. And so that's what we're going to talk about in this segment. Now, there was a book that was out a number of years ago called The Challenger Sale. And it was created by the Executive Council. And they studied numerous amounts of salespeople in various industries over a number of years. And actually out in sales calls, studying the salespeople and studying the customer. And what's interesting is the customer has changed, and so has the need for salespeople to change. So let's look at this, because this is important that you get this for execution to grow business. Now, they're surveyed over 100 of frontline managers, okay, over 90 companies across the world, in every major industry, including janitorial, tech, all different industries. 6,000 sales representatives they talked with, worked with, analyzed, and evaluated. And what they did was they took that and they took the data, and that's what I'm going to share with you. And what I really like about data is when you do data research, market research, probability in business school, is you recognize the importance of data and the probability of data. Meaning that when you take probability very quickly, there's a reason why they can have an election. An election, it goes till 10 o'clock at night, but they can call the election at 7 because mathematical probability. So what I like about this is the research is solid, and believe me, I don't say that lightly. Market research analyst Neil Reckham, author of Spin Selling, for those of you that know spin selling, it's really changed the dynamics of selling in the early 80s. So the data is solid. Okay, so we trust Neil Reckham. He looked at it, he analyzed it. This is not statistics. I think Mark Twain said there's lies, damn lies, and statistics. Right? So this data is solid. So let's see what the customer really is looking for and how they've changed, because it's imperative that we get this. Now, what they did through the data is they analyzed and they came up with top performers in organizations. They came up with 5 basic sales personalities. They came up with a challenger personality, and he or she is always different, has a different view of the world, understands the customer's business, loves to debate and push the customer. Okay? There's the lone wolf. The lone wolf follows their own instincts. They're self-assured. They're difficult to control. They are kind of like the sales manager's nightmare, right? They deliver the numbers. They don't listen. What do you do? There's the hard worker, right? There's the willingness to go the extra mile. They don't give up. They're self-motivated. They're interested in feedback and development. We all know the hard worker. They're out working hard every day. We have the reactive salesperson. Again, this is personality types, the way that they behave, the way that they sell. They respond to internal and external stakeholders. They ensure all problems are solved. They're detail-oriented. And finally, there's a relationship salesperson. The relationship salesperson builds strong advocates in the customer's organization. They're generous with their time and help others. They get along with everyone. We all know the importance of relationship, right? And creating a relationship. And these people rely on that relationship as opposed to the other things: reactive, lone wolf, hard worker, and challenging the customer. So the question is which of these was most successful in the data? Well, what they came up with is the challenger challenger person was successful in 39%. Okay, then there was the lone wolf at 25. There's the hard worker at 17. There was the reactive at 12, and there was a relationship salesperson at 7%. You can see that a challenger salesperson, as far as high performer compared to the relationship, it's not even close. Now, why this is important that you get this is there's so many salespeople out there that still think it's important to have a relationship. And absolutely, no one's saying it's not important to be liked and have a relationship where the prospect customer likes you. Of course it is. The difference being is it does not create change. The difference is that the customer does not change because they like you. They don't change because they have a relationship with you. They change because of the value you bring. and you bring value by challenging what they're doing, how they're buying, the processes they're using. And the 39% goes up to 54% when the more complex a sale is. So as the sale becomes more complex, the more a challenger sale becomes more and more important to driving that change and creating that new business. Now, again, relationships are important, but they are the result, not the cause of successful selling. And so if you continue to think that you're going to get by going in time and time again, calling on a customer, not adding much value, and getting them to like you, you're not going to get much success. And it's obvious in the marketplace that it's not working. You have a longer sales cycle now. You have to provide more value, and you have to differentiate yourself as someone that brings insights, value, and ideas to their business that helps them achieve their objectives. If you limit yourself just down to a product transactional salesperson, a market share driven salesperson, you are not going to create change. You are not going to get much new business, and any new business you do get is going to be extremely low volume. We don't want that type of business. In fact, we don't need salespeople for that type of business. You can do all that on the inside. Outside B2B salespeople need to add value, but it's a more complex sale. So let's do most of that sales virtually, automatically, on automation, so that we can spend most of our time with qualified people that we have pre-qualified, we have created a need, they have seen that we can create value for them, and now they're interested in talking with us. That's what we want to do. And finally, what percentage of loyalty? Well, this was equally important, okay? The customer's loyalty to the salesperson was based on these four criteria. Value to price ratio was 9%. Company brand, meaning they bought what you liked. The brands you carried, so they bought and changed because you represented XYZ brand and they really wanted XYZ brand, 19%. Product, service, delivery, that represented 19% of the reason someone would change. So let's put this in perspective. Why would they switch their loyalty to you and become a customer? 9% was because of value versus price. 19% was because of the brands that you carried. I really want that brand. 19% was because you gave good product, service, and delivery compared to your competitors. But the primary driver was the sales experience. 53% based on the sales experience that you provide. So we need to understand this, that we have to create value in the mind of the buyer, of the mind of the prospect, as much as possible before we get in front of him and her, because the time to create that value, if we kept going there time and time and time again, they're not going to see us. They don't have that kind of time to do that by booking appointments and meeting with us one-on-one. We have to do a lot of this virtually. And that's why we have a virtual prospecting program. So as we now understand we need to bring value, now what we need to do is we need to shrink the people we call on. And we'll talk about that in the next video.